New York State lawmakers have voted to ban chokeholds of the type that killed Eric Garner, part of a package of police reforms under consideration. But police tactics may only be part of the problem. We spoke to black officers all around the country about the challenges that they face. Errol Barnett is in New York City's Times Square for us. Errol, good morning. What do these officers tell you?
Good morning, Tony. You know, it was really interesting. They really opened up about the complicated feelings black cops must contend with. One of them, in fact, from the NYPD, said she was called anti-cop by a white colleague for suggesting that the officers who failed to intervene in George Floyd's death should be held accountable. And that is just one example of the emotional tightrope officers of color must overcome.
What does it feel to be an officer of color at a moment like this?
It's complex.
Lieutenant Gracia Herdsman has been with the NYPD for nearly 28 years.
The protest yesterday, people stood in front of me and they're like, how do you feel, being black and knowing what's happening? Do you believe in protest? And I was like, yes, I believe it's your right to protest peacefully. My son is probably here right now.
Law enforcement officials like Lieutenant Herdsman are trying to find a balance between their duty to their jobs and their identity as black Americans.
All these officers.
Fayetteville, North Carolina Police Chief Gina V. Hawkins.
I was excited to be able to say I want to be a part of the protest. I want to walk with the community. And then we had the violence come up. I had to do my job, which is protect the community.
Sergeant Jamie Jones is with the Decatur Police Department in Alabama. Decatur has roughly 130 people on its police force. 19 of them are black.
I think that if you don't study one's culture or know someone else's background that you're dealing with, then you can see them as a threat when they're not even a threat.
And do you think that happens?
Yeah, I believe that does happen. There have been times when I've been out of uniform where I have been treated differently. I keep those stories at home or, away from work.
When you're not in uniform in town, are you ever concerned for your safety?
Out of uniform, I'm just another guy. I'm a black man first, all right? And if they've had any issues with, the black race or what they see on TV, then they may feel threatened a little bit by just the sight of me or being in close proximity of me.
I think overall, black officers don't speak about what's happening in the black community with white officers. And I think it's an underlying fear of what will it mean about my relationships, because the police and relationship can be a close one. When you're on the streets, you need each other.
Do you think that if you would share with some of your white colleagues those experiences, you might open their eyes to the fact that this does happen?
I believe some of them would sympathize with me and understand. But like I said, it's just personal preference.
In 2016, a Pew study found 92% of white officers believe the U.S. has made the necessary changes to assure equal rights for African Americans, while only 29% of their black colleagues agreed. That same study found 86% of officers felt high-profile fatal encounters between police and black people made their jobs more difficult. Chief Hawkins acknowledges it's challenging, but says she's unwavering in her position as a black member of law enforcement.
If they are not in this profession, who will we leave it up to? It's a hard position to be in, to know what I stand for and to know what it should be like and to know what it's going to take to eradicate the ones that should not be in this uniform. But I need the good ones to stay strong. I need the good ones to speak up. I need the good ones to know we are going to change the world with George Floyd. So, yeah, it's hard, but it was never promised to be easy.
Sounds like what you're saying is you think you can do more from inside the police force.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, Chief Hawkins also believes that the main way to build trust is for police agencies to make it mandatory for police agencies to report use of force, disciplinary action, and other crime statistics. She says right now, all of that information is voluntary. And even as New York State prepares to pass a whole slate of police reforms, they sat idle for years facing resistance from powerful police unions, Anthony. But that was until nationwide protests changed things.
Yeah, Errol, thank you. As Chief Hawkins said, we need the good officers to speak up.